Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Learning Technologies, New Paradigms for Learning and Performance Support. My name is Seth Vandervlugt. I'm Innovative Learning Group's Business Development Executive. Thrilled to be here with you all today, along with Lisa Toenniges and Matt Kurtin from ILG. We got a great session planned for you all today, but before we get started, I'd like to take a couple of minutes to tell you about Innovative Learning Group. So we're a 9-year-old company located in Royal Oak, Michigan, a cool happening spot just north of Detroit. We're experts in all aspects of training and performance support. We create learning strategies, build curriculum architectures. We do a lot of design and development, and more we're using performance support solutions, and now we're really getting into mobile quite a bit. What we really care about and what differentiates us is probably our focus on getting business results. In other words, helping organizations reach their business goals. As you'll see, we work with a diverse group of medium and large-size companies across the country, some of which we do serve on a global basis. In short, we can support any learning and performance needs our clients may have. We'd love to talk with any of you about how we could help your organization. Our contact info will appear at the end of this session. Now to the webinar. As you read in the webinar invite, these are our objectives for today. Describe new ways to approach learning and performance support using new technologies. Identify technology-based solutions to fulfill performance needs using a standard performance improvement model. Explain how technology impacts learning roles and the skills needed to be successful in the industry today. Now for a little background on Lisa and Matt. So Lisa Toenniges is ILG's CEO and owner. She has 25 years of experience in the field and has touched just about every type of learning and performance challenge imaginable. She just started her term as the president of international level of the International Society for Performance Improvement. Joining Lisa is Matt Kurtin. Now, what would an ILG webinar be without Matt making an appearance? Today, he's Lisa's special guest, and he will be in touch on a few items here later on in today's webinar. Matt has more than 15 years of experience developing e-learning courses, learning management systems, and e-learning strategies. He leads ILG's mobile learning strategy and delivery efforts. And now, on to our session. Lisa?
Well, good afternoon, and thanks, Seth, very much. It's really terrific to be here today. You know, I was thinking about the session and what a treat it's going to be to spend the next hour or so being forward-thinking, and talking about concepts and ideas and how we might apply all the wonderful new technology. I'm not promising that Matt and I will have all the answers, but we'll certainly have a good time discussing some of the options, and hopefully we'll spur some thinking on your part, and you'll leave today with a few things you want to explore. So I have some ideas to share today. Matt and I have quite a few examples we're going to show, and then we have several polling questions throughout to understand a little bit about how you all are using some of these new technologies. How's this sound? So again, our title for today, as Seth said, Learning Technologies, New Paradigms for Learning and Performance Support. So this is really about how all these new technologies can give us new ways to look at performance support and learning. So just to remind ourselves of what we mean by paradigm, the definition on the screen here, a paradigm is a set of rules, examples, or models, and it's often referred to as the rules, examples, and models our minds use to filter information. So basically, right, with the new learning technologies, our minds have some new ways to filter our thoughts about learning and performance support. So just let's make sure we all have kind of a shared understanding of what we mean when we say learning technologies. What I mean for today are the digital tools that enable learning and performance support. So what do you see on the screen? Let's see, there's an internet and an intranet. There's a whole range of devices then, right? You see a desktop computer, a laptop, a tablet, a phone, a camera, a media player, and there's new ones coming out all the time. There's the phablet, if you've heard of that. It's the smartphone with the little bit bigger screen. On the screen here, you also see a digital watch and the man wearing glasses that will help augment reality. And many of these devices also serve as personal productivity helpers. They'll help us with our calendar and tasks, for example. But then not on the screen are the various software applications, the authoring tools that you're all hearing about now that help SMEs or users generate content. Things like Articulate Presenter, Adobe Presenter, Snap, Captivate, Loctora, Brainshark, and many of these authoring tools now let us publish to the various devices, especially mobile. So no shortage of these digital tools. All right, so that being said, before we continue the discussion about technology, I want to make sure that we discuss performance, because performance is always the context we must have. And like the slide says, it's always about the performance. I think our graphic designer had some fun with that photo. And this slide is also a good reminder, because as it says on the slide, technology is the enabler, right? So the guitar doesn't play itself. It's the tool or the technology that is one piece of the musician being able to play wonderful music and have a great performance. Certainly, we all know it takes expectations and external and intrinsic motivation and skill and physical and mental capabilities, right? So it's really much more than just the tool or technology that gets us to great performance. And as one of our objectives mentioned, we'd like to use a standard performance improvement model to help identify technologies that fulfill performance challenges. And on the screen is just one such model. It's basically a performance improvement process. And we'll refer to this model in a bit to show a good context for us to have as we think about the new technologies. We never want to be a technology solution in search of a performance problem, but rather a performance problem in search of the right solutions, which could be, in this case, as we're talking about today, a digital solution. Think differently. So as long as we keep the performance context, the technologies now free us as performance consultants and instructional designers to think about the whole gamut of ways in which people learn. So on the left side of the screen, you see the instructor-student model. It probably goes way back to the 17th century, with the student listening to the master. And often I think public school education may not be too much different today. Now the technologies allow us to provide learning and performance support in many formats, like you see on the right side of the screen. So at the far right, you see as an individual. You see at the bottom the peer-to-peer. Up at the top, you see collaboration going on. In the upper right corner, those are actually mountains, so we were thinking experiential learning. It's not always the master on high anymore. So now you can create your own learning within your personal context if you're given the right resources. So individuals can string together their learning as they need to. One example I was thinking of is my 16-year-old daughter that likes to bake. So, at her age, what her mind is thinking is, I can go online and find a recipe. I can then at the grocery store scan some QR codes to look at the various ingredients and see if something is healthy or not. She may be texting my husband, that's a pretty good cook, for some coaching. She actually goes on YouTube. Once she was going on YouTube and looking for a video to learn how to make fondant. She might take a photo and email it to her grandma with a question, or even hop on Skype with her friend's mom that's a caterer, right? Compare this to what we all might have done 20 years ago. Probably copy a recipe out of a book at the library, or sign up for a class at a local craft shop, or probably call grandma, right, on the rotary phone with a question. So again, we can think differently. And this screen just highlights one obvious example of how we need to think differently. When mobile first came on the scene, everyone was thinking we'd just, convert e-learning to mobile. We actually had one conversation with a client that wanted to take a 100-screen e-learning course on a new computer system and convert it to mobile. So can you imagine? It probably would have been about 600 clicks on a smartphone. And given that it was systems training, it would have meant also probably cutting up the various system screens to use throughout the training. Ugh, right? So with all these new technologies, we really need to think differently. What we have now is just a short clip from one segment of our mobile learning series. And this highlights some of the ways that mobile learning supports a learning paradigm shift.
Thanks for sharing your insights with us. Back to you, George.
Sounds like traditional learning is still pretty important, and mobile can play a key role in a blended learning solution. Professors, I have one more question for you. What type of learning is mobile especially good for?
George, mobile learning can aid every level of cognition in Bloom's taxonomy, from remembering to creating. It has great teaching range.
Looking at Gilbert's behavior engineering model, George, we can see that mobile learning plays in cell 1, data, cell 2, instruments, and cell 4, knowledge. Thus, it has the potential to go well beyond traditional formal learning to facilitate and improve job performance.
What's more, mobile can enhance knowledge transmission and skill building by augmenting formal learning, augmenting reality, and augmenting our brain. In short, it will help create a 21st century paradigm of learning.
So a few of my favorite models there, right, with Bloom's taxonomy and Gilbert's and a new model by Clark, so that's terrific. Okay, we have our first polling question now, and the question is, which of the following does your organization do now? So we'd love for you to select all that apply. Looks like a number of folks aren't developing mobile yet. Good. A number building mobile performance support. Excellent. Yep, and some adapting. Okay. So it doesn't surprise me. That's what we're hearing quite a bit. I think folks are talking about mobile learning, but not necessarily taking those initial steps yet to implement it. Okay, so as we think differently, we have many, many options. This slide just shows a few of the labels we all hear as we go about our day, right? So you see HTML5, you see collaboration, social networking, wikis, mobile apps, cloud computing, knowledge management systems, RSS feeds. If you compare this body of knowledge that people had access to 100 years ago to this or what we have today, it's really amazing. But I think it can be a double-edged sword. On one hand, it can be rather complex and probably be overwhelming, as I think this woman can show. But on the other hand, it can be really exciting. As a profession, right, how cool is it that all the possibilities and where our profession is headed, you know, instead of being the same old ILT and e-learning, there are a lot of new options in our toolkit that are going to let us tap into this revolution. So rather than being scared and overwhelmed, I think we can be excited and have our eyes wide open. And if we're leading the charge in our respective organizations, those around us are going to be excited and supported also. But if we're going to need to lead the charge, I would challenge all of us to do it from a performance perspective. And this means, right, starting with a good analysis. So we're going to do a build here on the left corner of the model. And the first phase of our model, then, is the performance analysis phase. So this is really the process of identifying the organization's performance requirements and comparing them to its objectives and capabilities. So the top left box there is the organizational analysis. And you can see it's going to look at the vision and mission and values and the goals and strategies, kind of the heart of the organization. The next box down is the environmental analysis, and it identifies and prioritizes the realities that support the actual performance. In other words, what's going on at the various levels. And you can see there we have the world, we have the workplace, which is all the environmental things we worry about, the work itself, you know, the workflow and the procedures, and then finally the worker, which we mean the individual. So the outcome of both those boxes, the organizational and the environmental boxes, is an explanation of the gap. And it's the gap between the actual performance, you know, what's happening now, and the desired performance, which is what you want to have happen in the future. So finally then, when you go to that box to the right, It's the cause analysis, which takes a deeper look at what caused that performance challenge. In other words, it's your diagnosis. So again, if you're familiar with Gilbert's model, that's what that is. It's a cause analysis model. It helps you do that diagnosis. So first, I think we're seeing from this screen, it's going to be really important that we do a thorough performance analysis. If we move to the next phase in the model over to the right, it's going to build here for you the intervention selection, design, and development phase. So this phase of the model is where we actually get to select the best intervention or solution. So this is the solution that's going to address that gap, the gap between the actual and the desired performance. So there's literally hundreds of interventions to choose from. But it's going to be really important to select the right solution. It's really a science more than an art, and I just can't stress how important this is. So once you've selected the right solution, then this phase goes on into design and development, which is probably, I think, pretty well understood by this audience. So again, the critical piece here is to do your analysis and select the right intervention. We don't want to just be using the new technology just because it's new and cool. So if this is a model that's of interest to you, you can find a full description of it in a book called The Fundamentals of Performance Improvement. And the model itself is also on the ISPI website at ispi.org. And you can search about ISPI and then the HPT model. Okay, so given all the possible interventions, I think it's going to be helpful if we can find a way to categorize them. And I think probably the simplest, broadest construct for us is if we go with formal and informal. So I think the formal learning options are pretty straightforward. You see them here on the screen. And let's talk just for a minute about how we can apply some of the new technologies within these formal options. So first, within classroom, we're seeing a number of our clients these days put the reference guide or the participant materials actually right on a tablet. So instead of getting a hard copy binder, they get kind of a government-issued tablet when they go into the classroom. Another way we're seeing is using polling questions within the classroom. There's a software called Poll Everywhere where you can actually scan the QR code on your phone and then respond to polling questions that way. With webinars, there's all sorts of functionality. There's breakout rooms where you can actually be in the same breakout room with somebody in California and somebody in New York. There's also text chat. There's desktop and application sharing. There's video chat and conferencing. Then with e-learning, certainly lots of ways to apply the technology. You can link a learner to data or a tool on your intranet. You can simulate a real-world environment using some of these new authoring tools that help us build the higher-level interactions. You can use a smartphone to actually, think about this, you could video a little performance nugget of yourself trying something out, for example, like a role play, and then maybe email it to your coach to help you and give you feedback. And then with mobile, as we said, you can certainly use mobile to build formal learning. And probably this is going to work best, or better on a tablet than a smartphone, where you're going to have a little bit more real estate. So that's formal learning. And we said the other then category in our construct is informal learning. So informal learning is going to be any learning obtained through a means other than a formal training course. So this screen shows nearly 20 types of informal tools, and we've categorized them in 3 buckets here: teaching tools, information tools, and collaboration tools. So on the left there, teaching tools provide instructional content, for example, like with a recorded lecture or on-the-job coaching, perhaps. In the middle, then, the information tools provide reference information, either objective or subjective on a topic, maybe, for example, using a procedure or a blog. And finally, then, the collaboration tools category allows peers to share and build knowledge by working together, for example, with a discussion board or a wiki. So probably probably goes without saying that there may be some overlap between these categories, or a tool may fit in one or more places. But we thought it was nice to kind of have the three categories to think about it. And I think we'd also all agree that informal learning shouldn't replace all formal training, but instead should just be considered as a way to augment the formal training, really to be a part of a broader total learning solution. So for the next chunk of the webinar then, we thought we'd go category by category and show or discuss a couple examples for each type of tool. So let's go ahead and start with our teaching tools. So the first one is recorded presentations, such as slide decks, videos, podcasts, and webcasts. So these allow learners to view or listen to presentations as needed. Well, it's time to introduce Matt, who's going to share another teaching tool with us.
Thank you, Lisa. Hello, everyone. What I'm showing now is an example of a PowerPoint presentation loaded into SlideShare. SlideShare is a great tool for sharing online presentations. You can upload your PowerPoint, and it becomes an HTML slideshow that anyone can view online. And then if you like, you can even embed the output in your own website. You have standard next and back controls and the capability to zoom out to full screen. By the way, you might be interested in the content in this shared presentation because it has a lot of cool tools.
Another teaching tool then is job shadowing, which allows learners to learn procedures and best practices by following an experienced practitioner. So I can imagine from a technology standpoint that the experienced practitioner has maybe on their smartphone a list of things that they need to demonstrate. So they make sure that they don't skip some of the critical tasks they're trying to show for the person to shadow. Yeah.
The next section of teaching tools is practice assignments and online simulations, which allow learners to perform typical job tasks in a safe environment. This is an example of a nuclear power plant simulator that I found online. So tools like Captivate, which are good for linear simulations and simulations with some moderate branching, wouldn't be able to develop something like this, which shows the capability to allow the user to proceed in any order desired. This type of simulation will take a long time to design and build relative to other e-learning, but it makes sense in a case like this where there's no safe way to practice in the real world.
Another teaching tool then is on-the-job coaching, which allows learners to learn from an experienced practitioner while actually performing the job tasks. So here I was thinking about perhaps a doctor that's doing charity work in a remote location and maybe comes across some rare disease. He or she can simply take a photo of it, maybe with a phone, and email it back to an expert at one of the leading hospitals here and actually get some real on-the-job, almost real-time coaching. Another teaching tool then is mentoring, and this provides the learner with guidance and advice from an experienced practitioner. So I'm guessing many of you in your corporations have seen some of the mentoring software applications that let you actually kind of run the whole mentoring program within the application and set up the relationships and the profiles of the mentor and the mentee, and then the various forms and tools and process that you use to make the programs work. So that was the last item in our teaching tools section. So what we wanted to ask then is, which of these teaching tools have you used in your organizations? So go ahead and select all that apply. Lots of recorded presentations. It looks like quite a bit of everything else. Okay, quite a bit of on-the-job coaching. Very good. Okay, those answers make a lot of sense to me. Thanks for chiming in. Well, let's go ahead then and look at some of the examples in the next category, which we're calling information tools. Matt, why don't you start us off?
So our first section in the information tools category is job aids, procedural documentation, and embedded help. These provide how-to and explanatory information when and where needed on the job. So this website can be found at www.qrstuff.com. This is a cool resource to know about if you want to develop job aids that have QR codes embedded in them. Lisa mentioned QR codes earlier. You're probably already familiar with them, but for those of you who aren't, the user holds a mobile phone over the QR code, and the phone recognizes the code and loads the corresponding website in the phone's browser. So this site is very simple to use. You just type in each character of the URL here in box 2, and as you type in each character, it actually updates the QR code preview over on the right. And when you finish and the QR code is created, you click Download QR Code, and it saves it as a picture that you could then import into your job aid if you wanted to. Next, I'm going to show an app which we developed for iOS and Android devices, and you can download this free from Apple's App Store or from Google Play. It will help you quickly assess your organization's human performance issues using Dr. Gilbert's behavior engineering model. It can help you spot performance problems areas, identify causes, and suggest possible solutions. So you can see as I begin the assessment, if I'm doing okay on this one, it says great. But if I'm not making the expectations for performance clear and I click no, it'll suggest some possible solutions. And where this works for Android and iOS, we also had our client create another version tailored specifically to their own organization's content and make it compatible with BlackBerry phones. So then when you see the possible solutions, it links right into possible solutions that they really use within their organization.
Next is the production template, which provides a structure for creating work products. The best practices then can be built in. So what we're showing here on the screen then is an example of a storyboard template. So this is what our instructional designers work in just a Word template as they're building e-learning and m-learning and some of the various digital performance support tools. So it mimics the approved prototype and then gives the instructional designer the exact real estate and page layout per se that they need to work within.
Next are wizards, which teach learners how to create a work product by following an electronic coach step-by-step through the process. Procedure, help, and best practices are built in. And this is another free app that we've developed for Android and iOS. It helps you determine if a mobile solution is right for your learning need, and if a mobile solution is the right solution, it will help you determine whether you should use an app or a website.
And then another wizard example we thought we'd show is one that's publicly available. It's called iTriage. And if you have some kind of pain or something that's ailing you, you can go, as the cursor shows, to where it says symptoms. And then you can click on a part of the human body. So you can click on the leg. And then it takes you to a list of possible problems here. So let's say it's knee pain. So we can select knee pain, and then it brings us to more options. And let's say we can select a ligament tear. And then it actually, as you see kind of in the center of the screen, it gives us a little bit of a description about what a ligament tear is. And then finally, on the next screen, on the far right side there, you can see where to go. Do I need to go to the emergency department or just some kind of retail clinic? And it can actually then give you specific locations based on where you are geographically located. So this is a pretty cool informal learning tool, so you can help yourself with some kind of medical situation. Another type of information tool are professional associations, meetings, conferences, publications, websites. These provide access to professional knowledge from a large community of practitioners ranging from companies and industries and various geographies. So on the screen, you see the conference app from last year's M-Learning conference. So this would be available on mobile devices for the people roaming around at a conference. And as you can see kind of on the left side of the screen here, you can look up, who are the attendees at the conference. You can look at maybe the various maps of the conference facility. You might be curious next down about who the exhibitors are. You can actually do some messaging with other people that are at the conference. You see then in the middle, you can actually build your own agenda, and then it will show on your app. It'll kind of show you right front and center your schedule that you've mapped out.
And I just wanted to chip in here where you see Twitter on the right-hand side, and using Twitter in an app like this or Twitter in and of itself when you attend a conference, the capability to connect with others at the conference in that manner and ask and answer questions to everyone else at the conference, even when you don't know them, it changes the whole experience. It makes it like you're in a community, even if you don't know anyone else there as you're attending the conference.
Another information tool then with our technologies are RSS feeds, which automatically provide the latest professional and industry information from sources on the web. So this is just a screen from our website, and you see there in the middle the RSS Digest. We have feeds coming in from ASTD and ISPI, as well as Learning Solutions Magazine and Learning Trends. So this RSS feed is available on our website under the Tools and Knowledge menu item, along with a number of other resources, kind of like a learning hub for the community of learning and performance support people out there.
Next are frequently asked questions databases, which provide answers to common questions, tips on troubleshooting problems, and procedures for performing non-standard tasks. And I'm showing here an example from Articulate Storyline's Product Support FAQ. It's a great example of an easy-to-navigate frequently asked questions database. I like the way that they divide up the questions into categories on the left-hand side, and I also like the fact that you can search here across all the categories. Just type in what you want and find it there. Next are blogs, which provide expert commentary on current issues and are augmented by reader feedback and discussion. And this is an example of one of my own blog postings entitled How to Do E-Learning and M-Learning Solutions Right. Some of the features of our blog that make it good are the ability to categorize and sort by date, to add keywords, and to allow readers to rate and comment on blog postings.
So that brings us to the end of this category. So we're curious to know which of these information tools you all are using. So again, go ahead and select all that apply. Lots of job aids, that doesn't surprise me, and procedural documentation, terrific. Lots of folks involved in professional organizations, good. A few more people chiming in. Yep, some production templates, excellent. I love that. And then you can store them in your knowledge management system, get you halfway towards creating what you need to. Well, this might be a good point just to pause and see if there are any questions.
As those are coming in, Lisa, someone earlier mentioned Captivate as one of the new technologies that they've seen, and that's pretty apropos right now because Captivate 7 just came out. Captivate 6 adds some capability for mobile learning that wasn't there before, and Captivate 7 adds on top of that the ability to convert straight from PowerPoint to HTML5, so that's really cool.
Good. All right. Christy is asking, I get the technology, but how do we get access to some of these tools?
So I'll take that, Lisa, at least as a first stab. There's a mix of tools that we've shown. Some of these you can go and find online and download for free. Some of them you could sign up for a trial version or a limited version for free. And some of the tools that we're talking about, you probably would have to purchase a license for to use, so quite a wide variety.
Great question, Christy. Thank you. Any others here? All right, why don't we go on to our third category then called collaboration tools. And Matt, you want to start us off?
Sure. The first one is departmental meetings, which provide a real-time forum for disseminating up-to-date company, job, and best practice information for management and team members. And I'm going to talk about an example tool that could be used to help with virtual departmental meetings. So this is Zoho, and you can see that the apps that make this up include chat, discussions, meeting, docs, mail, and others. This suite of collaboration apps is similar in nature to those that you might expect to find from Google or from Microsoft. They're nice in that if you need to start up quickly for a small group, you can use them as a software as a service and start immediately, and it can be very inexpensive to use those tools.
Our next collaboration type of tool then is the community of practice get-togethers, which provide an informal, real-time venue for learners to discuss work issues and best practices with peers. So on the screen, you see just a shot from ISPI's networking platform, which is called ISPI Collaborate. And you can do things like join a community. And once you get in a community, you can be part of discussions. You can access documents that are in the library. You can add things to the library. You can read blogs and submit your own blogs. You can see what events are going on. You can look at the other members in that group and what their profiles are, as well as, various upcoming events and whatnot. So this site is actually open to anybody. There's some things that are available to everyone, and there's some things you can imagine are just available to members.
Next are online discussion boards, which provide a web-based venue to discuss work issues and best practices with peers. Participants can contribute to the discussion at any time, and all contributions are saved for viewing at any time. So both Articulate and Lectora have online discussion boards that are very helpful for e-learning developers. Next is online document sharing that provides a web-based venue and controls for creation, review, and revision of documents by team members via the organization's intranet. And some common examples here include Google Docs and Microsoft SharePoint.
Another collaboration tool then are wikis, which provide a web-based venue for group creation of information articles. So information articles on the site can be cross-referenced using links to form a knowledge base. So probably one that we're all familiar with is Wikipedia. And the definition, group creation, you can add things, you can revise content that's there, you can delete what's there. So really work on something collaboratively. Next, we have social networking sites, which allow team members and colleagues to share information, experiences, commentary, best practices, documents, and internet links in an informal web-based venue. Team members in different geographic locations can connect also then on a personal level. So, of course, we all know the publicly available social networking sites like Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. And I think some of you, though, find, right, with your corporate intranets or firewalls that those public ones are blocked. But now this next screen shows an example of Salesforce Chatter. So this is an example of a social networking tool that, you can use inside your organization. Another one I know many organizations use is called Yammer, again, for that private social network.
Next is cloud computing, which allows individuals to participate in document creation, information authoring, site development, and messaging, discussion, and other more specialized applications with anyone, anywhere on the Internet via a secure website. Software, services, documents, and data are stored in the Internet and in the cloud rather than on company servers. And I want to start here by showing WordPress.org. So WordPress started out as a way just to host only blogs. It's open source software, again, for free. Anybody can use this to host a blog on their own site. But over time, it has been extended to a full content management system that offers hosted options. So WordPress includes thousands of plugins, widgets, and themes. You can see from the plugin directory, when I pulled these slides together a couple days ago, I did my last check, they were listing over 25,000 plugins. And one of the plugins is the plugin from LearnDash.com that turns the content management system of WordPress into a learning management system. And then where it really gets interesting is that LearnDash itself also has plugins. So you can extend LearnDash to add e-commerce functionality, customize grade books, or as shown here, to launch courses using the TinCan API, also known as the Experience API, which is the up-and-coming replacement for SCORM. It works better with mobile devices and allows tracking of informal learning rather than just formal courses. By clicking the raise hand in the upper left-hand corner, by show of virtual hands, are you using the TinCan API yet for any of your learning solutions within your organization? All right, I'm not seeing any yet, and I'm not too surprised about that. We're seeing it as being a little bit slow to be adopted. Actually, the authoring tool vendors have been pretty quick to add it into their authoring tools, but it's taking a while for the learning management systems to catch up.
Thanks, Matt. So that was the last type in our collaboration tools category. So again, would love to ask you, which of these collaboration tools are you using? Go ahead and select all that apply, and we'll take a look. So lots of departmental meetings, lots of social networking sites. Good. Some online document sharing. A couple more coming in. Not too much cloud computing yet. Did that surprise you, Matt?
I'm not surprised. Sometimes large organizations are more reluctant to go to a cloud computing-based solution than smaller ones are, sometimes because of security concerns, although it can be that the cloud computing security can be better than what your own organization's is, so I'm not sure if it always makes sense. That's the reasoning.
Okay, good. Well, wow, we've seen a large variety of examples of informal learning tools and technologies, and I'm guessing you all are aware of many more that we could add, but wanted to show just a few examples. So are any of you starting to feel, though, like the woman on the screen and kind of wondering about how all the changes, or how all this technology, in other words, changes our roles as learning professionals? I think clearly it does. So what are some of these new roles? First here on the left, we see the trainer, that first character. We're no longer just the trainer delivering training, but now we're really the facilitator, of learning. So how do we ensure there are the right opportunities for learning, individually and in pairs and collaboratively, and now we have synchronously and asynchronously. It's not just that master-student relationship anymore we saw on the previous slide. The next person to the right shows the information manager. So, the new tools let us create really useful, evolving digital libraries of things like podcasts and videocasts and photos and RSS feeds and reading material to support learners as they go about doing their work. And creating a good library like this requires architecture and organization skills. It doesn't help us all if we have articles stored that nobody can find. And the next role over then is that of the content curator, because think about it, an effective curator helps the learner manage information overload by essentially serving as a filter, just like you can think of a museum curator. The effective content curator works at aggregating and selecting and annotating content around a particular theme or point of view. It's not just a matter of compiling links, but really serving as the resource for finding and feeding that new relevant content to a group or community, which is a nice segue to another role we find ourselves playing now more as the builder of learning communities. So really all those learning ideas that we saw under our last category in collaboration. As you think about all these new roles then, you get a bit nervous that we don't control necessarily the solution and the content so much anymore. How do we make sure there aren't myths floating around there? Can we really trust and rely on those super users that are out there, or the people that have user-generated content? Is it really good? Is it usable? And what about all those legal reviews? I know many organizations require that training materials go through several legal reviews. So all things, I think, for us to ponder as we think about changes to our roles. And with the new roles and responsibilities, I guess the obvious question then is what skills do we need? So I would argue that many, we need many of the same skills, right? So we still need strong human performance technology skills and strong ISD, those instructional design skills, and especially what we looked at. We looked at the analysis phase and the design phase. We need to be really strong there just because there are so many choices. It's so much more likely we can make a bad choice there. I would argue we still need really great, strong communication skills, oral and written and listening, informing. That's my favorite one. Who to tell how much when of the information you might know. And certainly conflict resolution skills, as we have more ideas floating around. And I think because of all these extra parts and pieces, you're going to need, continue to need strong project management skills and business acumen, including the finance. We often say, as performance consultants and instructional designers, we need to think like business people. And maybe here with the new technologies, we're going to be involved in some of those financial decisions around purchasing and applying some of these technologies. But as far as the new skills go then, I don't know that we all need to be bits and bytes people, but I think we certainly need a strong relationship and partnership with the folks in our IT group and really spend some time and energy fostering and building these relationships. certainly we're going to need strong consulting skills because we need to navigate the organization more, and there are more and more options that aren't necessarily well understood right now. And next you see the information design and architecture skills. These are about how to create and format and lay out the screen so we get great comprehension and usability. And these are also those information architecture skills are what helps us with the complex content and how to really organize it logically and make it easy for the users to navigate. Just like we said, those roles for the information manager and content curator. The more and more we do performance support, those information design and architecture skills are going to be pretty important. The last bullet there is I don't think we all need to know all the technical details like someone like a Matt would know, but we sure need to know what the technology is capable of, So it's really about the awareness of the new technologies and the possibilities, which is really what we said, at the beginning of the webinar. So how do we learn all these skills? Well, I guess we would learn them the same way our learners, right? The folks in our departments and end users are going to learn them through all these various formal and informal learning options that we've been discussing today. And certainly the digital tools and solutions are going to be just as good to help us out as well. So as we wrap up today, perhaps it's helpful to think back to our title. Do you feel now like you have a few new ways to use some of the technologies for learning and performance support? Hopefully there's a few of you nodding your heads. And if I asked you to think perhaps about an aha for the session, might it be something like you're surprised about how many of these tools you're already using, at least in some kind of simple way? So now I would then challenge you to think about which of these technologies you can apply a bit more or maybe in a slightly different way. Because if we all do this and we all begin to move our organizations in the right direction, we'll improve performance and help all of our organizations get to their business results, which is really the real deal. And of course, my final one-time reminder about this is, again, it's always got to be about applying the technologies appropriately for the right reasons, not just because they're new and cool and you want to try them out. So I think we have time for just a few more questions. We have one, how do online discussion boards differ from blogs?
So online discussion boards and blogs are very similar in nature. The primary difference would be that a blog is intended primarily as a one-to-many communication with feedback. One central person or a group, maybe an organization, is the source of information that other people are reacting to, where on discussion boards, everyone is kind of on equal footing and all are contributing to the initial content.
Great, Shannon. Thank you. Any ideas about how to engage IT departments in this new environment? I think one way is to kind of meet them where they are and ask them what are the latest things they've heard about and what they're using. And then, often they're the bigger, more maybe, what's the expression, tail wagging the dog, They're probably out in front with the technology, so often it's best if the learning and performance folks can leverage what's already going on. You'll get more bang for your buck then than going out and buying separate things, probably. Matt, what would you add?
Well, I think also, too, as you engage and start wherever you start within the IDT department, the important thing is to focus on the business value, because the further you work your way up the chain, the more important it's going to be to make sure that you're focusing on the business value, not as you were saying before, the gee whiz value of the technology. If you can explain the business value, you can continue to push it up until it gets the attention it needs.
Good. Great question. All right. Well, I know Matt and I want to thank you for your time today. And at this point, I'm going to turn it back over to Seth to wrap things up.
Great. Thanks, Lisa. And hopefully all of you found this to be real helpful here today. I think Lisa and Matt showed us lots of great examples. I also just wanted you to know about a number of resources on the ILG website as well. We've really built our website to be a hub for learning. In addition to the mobile series, RSS feed, and blog that we saw here today, there's interactive articles and white papers, links to recorded webinars on YouTube, as well as links to where you can download several free apps. Well, thank you again, Lisa and Matt. We want to thank all of you who joined us today. Our contact info is on the screen here. We invite you to contact us with any questions or comments you might have. Please remember to respond to the survey that you'll be receiving momentarily, and you'll receive these slides, Informal Tools Job Aid, as well as the YouTube link early next week. Thanks again, and everyone have a great day.